St. Catharines, welcome to another episode of talkSTC. I am Mayor Matt Cisco. I am so glad you were able to be here with us. Happy New Year to the community. It's good to be back and chatting with you and chatting with folks in and around St. Catharines and our community about all the great things that are happening. It's the start of the new year. I hope you had a fantastic holiday season with your friends, your family, and all the loved ones. I hope you're having a fantastic start to 2025. If you're still looking for a New Year's resolution, I encourage everybody check out stcatharines.ca and search for Move STC. We're getting folks out and moving in the community, and hopefully you can join us. It was a good 2024. I always say I'm a bit of a cynic, so I sometimes focus on the things we still need to work on, but we did have a really great year. We got our Municipal Development Corporation up and running. We had a really successful World Rowing Championships. Lots of interesting things going on in the world of housing. We're still working on all the issues around homelessness and the opioid epidemic, but 2025 is going to be a fantastic year as we build on all that success. We've got the Minto Cup coming. We've got the Ontario Parasport Games coming. And for City Hall, we're going to be doing a core services review. We're going to be looking at value for money audits. It's an exciting time in the city of St. Catharines. Today's episode, we are very lucky to be joined by Steph Vivier, the host of Niagara in the Morning on 610 CKTB. And she's going to talk about her first 8 months on the job after taking over the reins from Tim Dennis. And then after that, we're going to speak to folks from the Lincoln and Welland Regiment to discuss our recent trip to Bergen op Zoom, as well as their upcoming deployments as part of Operation Reassurance. But my first guest, as I said, is Steph Vivier. She is the host of Niagara in the Morning on 610 CKTB. Welcome, Steph.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're able to be here. You are a proud Specs Howard School of Broadcast Arts graduate in Detroit, Michigan. You have been on the airwaves Windsor, London, Ottawa, and now St. Catharines. Well, Niagara, I should be broader. Your journey, though, with CKTB started in 2008. You were, a radio idol contest to replace Tom McConnell when he was doing his paternity leave?
Yes, let's time warp back to 2008 when American Idol was still something cool and people really liked. And so, yeah, they had a little contest where they invited 5 different people who wanted to fill in for Tom McConnell to come in each day and do a little segment of the show, and then the listeners got to pick who they wanted. And I was very young and green and did not have my own show at that time. I had a little bit of on-air experience. I was mostly a talk show producer prior to that. And I got chosen, and it was absolutely fantastic. Just a wonderful place to be in, and just really fell in love with the station and the city.
And so you managed to find your way back here, and you are now the host of the morning show. And I mean, I will just say it's been 8 months, right?
Yep.
It feels like I've been waking up to your voice for a very long time, like longer than that. So well done in that. You've managed to really take that niche and make it yours. What's it been like? I mean, you're trying to infuse the mornings for people, make them make 610 and CKTB a part of their day. So what's that been like for you?
Well, thank you for that. I guess I'll take it as a compliment. It could be like a long time and that feels bad, but I'll take it as the compliment I think that you meant it to be.
It was definitely a compliment.
All right, I'm feeling that. You know what? I love morning radio, and when I'm not doing morning radio, I've done it in the past and then I haven't been doing it, I'm very lost in the morning. Like I don't know what to do, and I just love it's just happening. You're just there. There's no bad days. You can't have a bad day because you have to be the one to have a good day for everybody else. Let everybody else know what's going on and get into it. So it's a real mindset shift, and I feel like it really starts me off in a great way. So I absolutely love it, and thank you for saying that you feel like I've added my own thing to it, because taking over, like for Tim Dennis, he was doing it for 29 years, and of course you had people texting they're going to miss him so much and they would never get used to anybody else. But now I get those messages that I can't believe that I still loved him and I love that time, but I am so used to you being there. I was off a little bit on the holidays and people were like, I missed you. And so it feels good that it feels like the listeners have come along with me.
Well, I will tell you, you took some time off on the holidays, and every once in a while there'll be a day here or there where someone's filling in. And I'm disappointed. I'm legitimately disappointed. I enjoy you and Alex seem to have an interplay that just works. It's fun to listen to you guys. So well done for your first 8 months. I look forward to the next, what would be 28 years and 4 months?
Yeah, just a little bit of time to go. So really got to jam in everything I want to do in this next 28 years.
So you started in 2008 at CKTB, and you said you had a fantastic time. What was it about the station? What was it about the community that sort of made you want to be back here?
I grew up in Ep.6, which is near Windsor. So it was a real blue collar neighborhood, blue collar town, auto workers, right? And so I think St. Catharines and of course Niagara has that same sort of energy, border town, big sports fans, right? Love our football teams who are both doing amazing right now. Could we have a Bills-Lions Super Bowl? That would be incredible.
So long as the Bills win, yeah, it'd be fantastic.
Go Lions. And so it was, it just really felt like home to me.
Yeah.
The station itself, just the most talented, hardest working, humble people who were there, including Tom himself. I didn't get to work with him very much at that time because he was the one who was going to be off. But, to hand your show over to someone who had, almost zero on-air experience, who was very young and made a ton of really embarrassing mistakes during that time and still does, of course. He just, treated me like nothing but a peer and with respect. And so did everyone in that building. And that really meant a lot, as someone who was so new to the industry.
So what was your best mistake?
Okay, so we know about potash, right?
Yes.
And so there was a big story about potash at the time, and you would just read the newspapers, and the way the format of Tom's show at that time was very call-in based, and so basically we'd do a different topic every half hour. So I'd kind of come up with 4 topics, and I can't remember exactly what the question around potash was, but we did it for the half hour, and some people called and some people didn't, right? And this was a particular time where somebody didn't. So I really had to carry a show for a half hour about potash, except that I had never heard the word said aloud, and I called it potash. I said potash for a half an hour. Nobody called to correct me. No one in the station called to correct me. It was so lovely of everyone to put up with me. Like I said, completely embarrassing. I figured it out after the show. I cried from the end of the show until the next day, but got back on the mic and did it again.
That's phenomenal, and I say that only because as a mining engineering grad, I have friends who work in potash mines, so
I just never heard it said out loud.
That's, you know what, I always say, it's wrong to make fun of people for mispronouncing words, because a lot of times the reason why they know the word is because they've only ever read it. They've never heard it. And it's like, you're going to make fun of someone who learned a thing by reading it? Seems silly to me. So I think that's a wonderful mistake.
Well, thank you, Matt.
So I will say, as I was sitting and sort of coming up with questions today, I realized the question I've probably always wanted to ask you, and anybody in your field. I've never asked this question. What's the most frustrating part about interviewing politicians?
Ooh, well, they very much have the thing that they want to say. And I wouldn't say that so much on the local level, and this is not just me pandering to you. I feel like you do answer the questions that are asked, and you're very forthright and honest about your answers. You're not going to overpromise anything. I think the most frustrating thing is the complaining about other parties and what they're doing and what they're not doing. That is, in some ways, I get that. We do have to criticize, but I'm a solutions-oriented person, and I like a positive vibe in the morning. Like you said, we like to have a lot of fun, and some of these topics, of course, aren't going to be fun, but I would like that positivity. And so sometimes, you're asking a question and you're really just getting a bunch of talking points, and then you ask a different question, and then it really is just the same talking points again. And I know that's how they're trained. I know, a lot of my colleagues go into media training for politicians. So that can be a bit frustrating, but I do appreciate when anyone takes some time to join the show, because I think even if they're giving us those talking points, we're still learning about it.
I would love to get you to a candidate training school sometimes. As a candidate, it's also infuriating. They're like, don't answer the question they ask. Answer the question you want to answer.
Right.
Oh, I can do that? Turns out you kind of can.
Basically, we know they're doing that.
I've noticed, sometimes trying to redirect. I appreciate that. I'm going to give you the stereotypical questions that I think always get asked of folks who interview for a living. Who's been your favorite interview and who's your dream interview?
Oh, okay. Well, we have a little list going right now with Niagara in the Morning dream guests. We've got anybody on there from any member from Nickelback. Cookie Monster is also on there. Ryan Reynolds is on there. Just anybody we think of that we're talking about, and we throw them down. So we do keep a list of those people going.
Nickelback?
Yeah, I watched. Have you seen the documentary Love to Hate?
No.
Nickelback? You should watch it.
I love Nickelback, so I don't.
No, but I think you'll love them even more after watching it. So highly recommend that. And then I think, I watched the documentary around the time they came here last year, and so we kind of had just missed out on it. So it got on the list. That's how it happens. Dream interviews are tough though. Like I am a huge Matchbox 20 fan and I love Rob Thomas.
Okay.
And I've had an opportunity to meet him twice and I completely, I lose it, Matt. I'm not great. Like I don't know what to say and then I feel like whatever I say is stupid. So dream interviews I've kind of like put out of my mind because I know they're going to be terrible because I will embarrass myself.
Gotcha.
The worst interview, I can't really say that there's ever any bad ones because like I said, I do appreciate when anybody takes the time and it means a lot. And some of the some of the best interviews I think are the ones that are people that you wouldn't expect. You know, like there's a woman who swam from Grimsby to Oakville, right? Raising money for Pathstone Mental Health. Like people like that who are just doing extraordinary things. They're not the big names. They're not the ones that people are going to maybe necessarily tune in because that's happening, but they should because those are really inspiring people.
That's awesome. Steph, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for, like I said, the niche that you're filling because you have become a part of my morning and I know a lot of other people. So it's appreciated and I look forward to having you back on the show so I can sort of flip the script and interview you again.
Okay, I like that. Please,
Awesome.
Thanks for having me and I hope I get to come back soon.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back after a short break on talkSTC. Welcome back, St. Catharines, to talkSTC. I'm very excited about this next group of guests. It is a big group of guests. They are from the Lincoln and Welland Regiment. I will say, folks, this is the largest group I've had sitting next to me on the show in 2 years, so thanks for coming out. We're going to talk a little bit about a recent trip to Bergen-op-Zoom that I took with members of the regiment and the Regimental Association. We're also going to talk about the deployment of a number of the regimental folks to Operation Reassurance, and that's going to be taking them to Latvia as a part of a mission there with Canadian Forces. So I want to start off by welcoming all of you. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
We're going to start with Lieutenant Colonel Dyson. Lieutenant Colonel, this is not your first time here, but I want to welcome you back to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. We also have Master Warrant Officer Drew Neufeld.
Thank you, sir.
Glad to have you as well. And then we have Corporal Brad Sturton. There we go. Corporal Sturton. We have Private Layla Monteith. Good to see you. Corporal Josh Davidson is in the back corner there. Corporal Brad Holtby is standing in the back. We got our two tallest soldiers standing in the back. And then Corporal Austin Mallet. Did I get that, Mallet?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Good to hear. It's fun to talk to folks in the military because it's a lot of sirs, and I don't get that very often at City Hall. I definitely don't get that with City Council, so I appreciate this. You have no idea how much. Before we get too deep into this, I kind of want to talk to you folks and just, Private, we'll talk to you first. Okay. Private Monteith, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you wind up with the regiment, and what was the push to join the reserves?
So when I was younger, my mom enrolled me in Navy cadets when I was about 7 or 8, and that always just inclined me to join the Army.
Okay.
I never had family or anything in the military, but I always just wanted to do it myself. And then I went through a co-op program in my high school. Yep. And I joined in grade 11. I was 16, and I've been in since, so it's been almost 2 years now. And then I put my name up for the deployment and luckily got a position.
That's phenomenal. I'm going to say something now as a Navy brat raised in a Navy household. So you went through Navy cadets and you still wound up with the Army?
I know, right? I know, it doesn't make too much sense. So I started in Hamilton and then moving to St. Catharines, I was more inclined to go the Army route. Okay. So then just ended up landing in the Army rather than the Navy.
We'll forgive you about that. Okay. Corporal Sturton, there you go. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you wind up with Lincoln and Welland?
I'm actually a transfer from 31 Brigade. I started off with 31 Service Battalion in London. Unlike all these young pups, I joined later in life. Okay. Just before my 40th birthday, I joined the military as sort of a new career path. I actually worked full-time for the regiment. Okay. In their orderly room. And it's, to me, the whole purpose of a deployment is furthering my career within the Canadian Forces, whether that's continues with Lincoln and Welland Regiment right up until retirement, or if it's elsewhere within the Army. That's part of my plan. I'm looking forward to doing some domestic operations again in the future, but for right now, deployment is the next step.
That's phenomenal. All right, we'll go Corporate Mallet. So tell us a little bit, how did you wind up joining the regiment?
Well,
Well, originally I grew up wanting to be a fighter pilot, and I didn't want to go through the schooling because I wasn't a big school guy.
Yeah.
So I joined the high school co-op at 16, and I've been in for 3 years now. So yeah, I don't know. I had some like family history as well,
Yeah.
and that was kind of motivating.
Okay, before we get to the last two, just out of curiosity, how many people of the 7 of you, how many people have a family history with the military? Just the one? And a little bit Austin?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
My grandfather's in like World War II.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I think that's awesome. I'd love to see that continuation. All right, Corporal Holtby. Let's go to Corporal Holtby. Okay, so tell me a little bit, how did you wind up with the regiment?
I joined when I was in high school. I wanted a career that had a lot of variation to it, nothing too monotonous.
Yeah.
And then with the reserves too, it offers an opportunity to have a civilian career too.
Okay.
So I'm an HVAC technician, civilian side, and then I can still have this freedom, this opportunity with the military.
That's awesome. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this strikes me as the kind of career where every day is different.
Yes, exactly. That's what I really wanted.
I totally appreciate that. Okay. And then we've got Corporal Davidson.
Yeah, so I joined the military through the high school co-op. I love it. My dad was the regimental sergeant major of the regiment. He was in for around 32 years.
Oh, wow.
And then my mom was also in the regiment for 18 years. So I definitely have some family history within the unit. And I'm just really glad that I got the opportunity to actually serve my country abroad and say that, yeah, I'm serving my country and making my parents proud. So
That's fantastic. Okay, so Lieutenant Colonel Dyson, give us a little bit of an understanding. What's Operation Reassurance?
Operation Reassurance is a NATO-led mission. It's a deterrent in Central and Eastern Europe. So Canada is committed to deterring and building up the forces in Latvia. So we currently have 1,900 members there now, and it's likely going to grow as the years continue. So, and then all of you folks, you made the decision that you wanted to deploy. Corporal Davidson, tell me a little bit. You've mentioned wanting to serve your country, but this time in your life, like, what was the push for you to deploy at this time?
Honestly, the big push was I wanted to advance my career, and I wanted to go overseas and see what the Army actually had to offer. And training with other different countries that are in Latvia, since it is a NATO-led mission, will be just a great experience overall, and I'm really looking forward to it. So. Okay,
we'll go back to Corporal Holtby. What was your push? You're going to be away for the deployment. It's a 6-month deployment.
7 months.
7 months. So 7 months away from home. That's a big commitment. You talked a little bit about the ability to have a civilian career as well as have your time with the military. Mm-hmm. This is going to take you away from that. So how does that sort of factor into what your plans are? Like what pushed you to that?
Well, along with the experience that it gives, I get to travel the world as well. So as far as freedom goes and not having a life that's always the same every day, this offers great opportunity for that. Okay.
So I'm going to come down to Private Monteith and Corporal Mallet. So I'm just going to say you guys strike me as probably the youngest of the group. Yeah. Am I correct? Okay. So because you were mentioning timelines and you said 2 years ago in high school. Okay, so your early stage in your lives, very early stage in your adult life, what's the push to go overseas and to continue your career through a deployment?
Well, the push was mainly serving my country and gaining experience through the Army, and just being able to work amongst different countries is also an amazing opportunity. And so going overseas was, made the most sense. And I feel that as an infanteer, the main thing that anybody wants to do is go overseas. So the opportunity to do so is greatly appreciated.
Okay. So Corporal Mallet, then this is a reserve force. So you're clearly right now this is a part-time part of your life, but you're going to take this full-time opportunity for the next 7 months. How do you see things progressing after that?
Well, personally for me, after this deployment, I want to continue pursuing my military career because it's definitely switched my life around for the better. And I love doing the job, and I want to do whatever is asked of me to do the job. So.
I may have a son that I need you to talk to, but we'll get to that. Corporal Sturton. So I'm going to come to you because you had sort of mentioned this is a second career for you.
Maybe fourth, fifth,
maybe fourth,
sixth.
fifth. Hey, I don't judge. Trust me, I've been there. You know, you take different paths in life.
Yes.
You're a little bit older than everybody else. What's the push for you to deploy?
As this is my full-time
Yeah.
career, and I do mean career, not just a job, it is a career for me. In the military, there's a lot of checks in the box.
Yeah.
And this is one of those checks for me, maybe not with the military itself, but for me to be a better administrator. That's my job within the military. Unlike most of these folks, I'm not an infanteer. My job is to make things better, easier for the infanteers. My job is to support. And what better way to support than to see firsthand what it is that they're doing, learn the ins and outs. We have other administrators within our unit, fortunately, that have had that experience. And every single time we've had a member that goes overseas, they come back a better soldier, better within their job, better within the unit.
Yeah.
And that's important for me, to be the best I can to help the unit, to help the members, and to help the community.
I will just say, Lieutenant Colonel, you got some good troops.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. So, you know what, I'm loving that we're able to do this, and I'll just tell you right now, I'm probably having you back on a more regular basis to have conversations like this, because you and I have had this conversation about how important it is for the community to recognize that we do have a military unit in town, and it's an incredibly important part, not just of our history, but of our present. And Master Warrant Officer, I haven't gotten to you yet, but I mean, like, you're the historian in the unit. I mean, talk a little bit about how important the Lincoln and Welland Regiment has been and what it's done.
I mean, we can go back to 1777, but really, our predecessors were amongst the first settlers on the western side of the Niagara River. They were coming up just after the American Revolution because they couldn't go back to their home. So they really established the communities throughout Niagara. And since then, we've continuously served the Niagara region in all townships and communities. More recently, like you think about like World War I, World War II, and fast forward to all our peacekeeping missions, Afghanistan, and our current other OUTCAN obligations, whether it be Latvia, Kuwait, United Kingdom, things like that. Members of our regiment are members of our community and have continuously served our community for over 250 years.
Well, and I think it's important for people to understand too, a couple of you touched on it, the fact that, you know, these are folks that have civilian careers in a lot of cases. You know, they're people working and living within the community, but they're taking their time outside of that. And, you know, you and I have had a conversation or two about, you know, the number of soldiers who've deployed from the Lincoln and Welland Regiment over the last number of years. And I think that's really, it's something I think as a city and as a region, we need to sort of grab hold a little bit more of and really talk to people, because, and I'll get to what sort of spurred the original invitation. We were over in Bergen-op-Zoom together, and I was staggered, and I expressed that to you a few times, at the depth of understanding that exists. You know, and you walk through the streets, and in Bergen-op-Zoom at least, you know, leading up to the celebrations, Canadian flags everywhere. Yeah. There may have been a City of St. Catharines flag flying in a couple of locations, which we noticed and blew my mind. You know, but plaques everywhere, remembering the regiment, remembering our community over there because of what you folks did. Talk a little bit about like how important it is to maintain that linkage for the regiment.
Oh, definitely. Well, that's our history. That's a part of who we are. We have to remember, as Canadians, 80 years ago, they were under occupation, and they weren't under occupation for a short period of time. They were under occupation. The Dutch were 4 or 5 years. So there's a lot of suffering there. I've talked to Dutch people who said they had no food, no water, no clothes. Their families suffered. And to see the liberators come into those towns, the Canadian forces and the other allies who pushed back the Germans, it's a great thing to celebrate. Their liberation has quite a meaning to it that maybe not all of us can comprehend. And for us to be marching on those parades that day with all those Canadian flags, it was chilling. It was heartwarming to see that. It was a great experience. You know.
It really was. Master Warrant Officer, I mean, you in the Armory, there's, you know, the names of places. And I made a comment at this year's New Year's Levy, and I always like to talk about the great relationship that's there, that we're able to sort of latch onto your tradition and be a part of what you do. But, you know, I said this year, those names now that I've been over and I've been able to visit some of those places, and I had the benefit of, you know, sitting with folks I'm sure who you have great conversations with, folks whose family history has made them a part of the unit, who've served themselves, but to go to places like Capel-Chevrier and to hear the stories and to learn the names of the soldiers who never made it home. It's, in your position, you know, being the guy who deals with the history the deepest, like, I mean, how does that feel for you, and how does it compel you to then carry that on and make sure people hear it?
So being like very, I guess, interested in like history and regimental history specifically, I've had the opportunity to go to these places multiple times. I had read about places like Bergen-op-Zoom and Capel-Chevrier for years and years and years prior to going, and then going there really puts it into perspective. When you read some of these personal accounts or these personal histories, it allows you to resonate and connect with a person, and I think it's important that our soldiers do as well. So kind of taking it from a personal perspective allows people to connect to it a little bit more and remember that as well.
I think the work that you guys do is amazing. I think your work is really important, and I look forward to working with you and with the regiment as well. I just want to say thank you for everybody coming in. I want to thank all of you for the decision you made. I think it's fantastic that you're going to be abroad and carrying the flag and you know, doing what the Canadian military has done so well for, you know, a century and a half. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the community. And thank you so much for coming in. And Lieutenant Colonel, like I said, we're going to have you back. We're going to bring other soldiers, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely. We'll be right back after this. St. Catharines, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Talk STC. I want to say thank you to Steph Vivier from 610 CKTB. I also want to say thank you to Lieutenant Colonel Phil Dyson and all the folks from the Lincoln and Welland Regiment. I really appreciate them coming out. Really appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Talk STC.
you